Hi, I'm Jackie Krasna, and today I would like to talk about natural law. Natural law is the most important knowledge that one could ever take in because, as we'll discuss, it's natural law that actually governs over the consequences of our behavior. Yet, unfortunately, most people have never heard of natural law. And this is because natural law is among the most occulted or hidden knowledge that there is. Now, you may have heard of some other terms that, in the deeper esoteric sense, they do encompass the meaning of natural law. And these are terms such as karma, the law of cause and effect, the law of attraction or the law of mirroring, the philosophy of consequentialism, the golden rule. All right. But like I said, most people don't fully understand the meaning of these terms, and they are kind of seeing them through either a sort of cartoonish or a new agey filter. So I would like to reveal the true meaning of these terms and the meaning of natural law today. And I'm going to give you a sort of short textbook style definition of natural law that we can then unpack. Okay, so here it goes. Natural law is a set of universal, non-man-made, binding, and immutable conditions that govern the consequences of behavior for beings with the capacity to understand them, or for beings with the capacity for holistic intelligence. So let's expand on that definition and break it down. First of all, I said that natural law is universal. That simply means that you could travel anywhere throughout the entire cosmos and natural law will apply. Okay? It is unwavering. It doesn't depend on sort of your social class or your geographic location or the timeline that you're living on. It's just universal. Okay, so the next part of the definition that I gave here is that natural law is non-man-made. This is extremely important to understand. See, when most people think about laws, they think about what I refer to as man's law, these false dogmatic beliefs and human constructs that we come up with, and they're oftentimes pretty arbitrary. They vary dramatically depending on whether you cross over an imaginary boundary. They vary with time, place, cultural values, and they're just based on the fleeting whims and perceptions of flawed human beings. Okay, so we're not talking about these man-made laws that, by the way, are immoral and not in accordance with natural law. And when they are in accordance with natural law, i.e. laws against murder, they're just simply unnecessary and like redundant at that point, okay? Okay, so natural law was not created by humans. These are pre-existing conditions in the universe, okay, that will always be there as long as you're living in this reality. The next part of the definition that I gave is that natural law is binding and immutable. That simply means that natural law cannot be changed. Just like humans didn't create natural law, we can't change natural law either. You know, we need to develop an understanding of what these conditions or parameters are that we're operating under. And, you know, you can think about the law of gravity or the laws of thermodynamics. You can't change them. You know, those are natural laws as well. Those are more physical, natural laws. You can't change them, right? You know, you can pretend that they don't exist or that they don't apply to you, but you're going to have a bad time if you do that, right? All right, so far we've got that natural law is universal, it is non-man-made, and it is binding and immutable. Now we get to kind of the real heart of what natural law is, and that it governs over the consequences of our behavior. So ultimately, we're talking about morality. What is right versus wrong? Now, I'll tell you what right versus wrong is. It's very simple. Okay, we don't need to overcomplexify it, talking about the trolley problem and, all of these other hypothetical abstractions and possible gray areas, okay? These are considered transgressions against natural law. So the only things that are wrong to do are murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and lying. Now, any action that is not one of those 7 transgressions that, initiates harm to other beings is your inherent human right. Any action imaginable that is not an action that initiates violence unto another sentient being is a right. Please understand this. You ask most people what a human right is, and they'll tell you it's having access to clean water and food and shelter and safety. Not so. Nobody owes us those things. That's our responsibility. Now, what a right is actually a correct action. Just the same way that you take a test and there can be a right answer or a correct answer. Okay, so it's an action that is right. That is what a right is. Okay, so let's just sum that part of it up. Natural law is the law of cause and effect. You could call it moral law because it governs over the consequences of our actions. If you do one of those transgressions against another being, you will inevitably encounter a negative result. You might experience guilt and internal confusion, or maybe the end result is simply that another being was harmed. Okay, and I also want to take this time to say that natural law is not a religious belief. This is a truth that one can come to discover through their own experience. You could do scientific experiments and research to discover natural law. And what I suggest that people do is just look at a couple of history books, and you'll find that anytime there was a society that ended up enslaved, whether overtly or covertly, if you trace back the beginnings of that society, you'll find that they were behaving in the aggregate in an immoral way. Maybe they were coercing their neighbors, or they were complying with immoral commands, or condoning certain beings to be enslaved in some way. Okay, so we can see natural law in effect. This isn't something that some text tells us. This isn't a dogma. It's not a religious belief. Don't just believe me. Go figure it out for yourself. So the last part of the definition was that natural law applies to beings with the capacity for holistic intelligence. This means that natural law does not apply to other members of the animal kingdom who cannot understand these laws. They apply to humans that have greater mental, emotional, psychological faculties to understand them. And they also apply to other beings that might have equal or greater intelligence than that of humans. And also, these laws apply to all humans that can understand them, or other beings that can understand them. What I'm getting at here is that natural law applies to all classes of people. They apply to politicians, police, military personnel, government officials, CEOs, kings, queens. There's certain groups of people that we erroneously think are exempt from natural law, but that's not the case. Okay, just because you're wearing a bunch of badges with some funny occult symbols all over your uniform doesn't mean that you're exempt from moral laws. Okay, so just to sum up what natural law is, first of all, let's just repeat the definition again. Natural law is a set of universal, non-man-made, binding, and immutable conditions that govern over the consequences of behavior for beings with the capacity for holistic intelligence. The expression live and let live comes very close, or don't treat others the way you would not like to be treated, another version of the golden rule, or the expression do no harm but take no shit encapsulates natural law pretty well. Because in that latter expression, what you have is both the sacred feminine principle of non-aggression, do no harm, but also the sacred masculine principle of self-defense, take no shit. Okay? So, in summation, I would just say that you should learn more about natural law. You should continue learning and reading and taking in as much information as possible about the world around you, about your own psychology, and about the macrocosm, because when people operate in ignorance of natural law and they don't understand what a right and a wrong is, what happens is you essentially act on the plane of effects, where you're treating and bandaging symptoms of problems instead of cleaning out the wounds and, allowing things to heal and work properly. So we need to get up off the plane of effects and onto the plane of cause, in which we can be conscious co-creators of our reality with an understanding and wisdom of natural law. So that is it for me. I'm going to sign off. If you would like to learn more about natural law, I strongly recommend watching a documentary entitled Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law. And you could also go ahead and check out my website, JackieKrasna.com, for more information on occult topics in general. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.